Fine. First of all, compliments of the season. Yeah, it's been a great year. Well, not so great for a lot of people, but great for, I mean, 330,000 some odd new immigrants who will be making Canada their home. The journey is always ongoing, and once you come to Canada, then a different kind of journey starts, right? So it sort of continues in different ways. Today, we're going to do another live question and answer, of course, and we're just trying to figure out is there any specific pertinent areas that we could sort of look at and then go into detail about that, or just sort of shoot away. So there was one specific, I know guys, you guys are typing questions already on the YouTube feed. We will be looking at questions from people who posted them on the group earlier. So just first let me, because that's how we usually do, because those people have earlier posted those questions, so we're going to take those questions first, and then I'm going to come to the questions here on the YouTube. So let's get on with this. Actually, we started a bit early, which is good. Okay. The first question was from Jovial Fernandez. He says, or I'm not sure if it's he or she. I'm sorry, Jovial. The name sometimes can be confusing. All right. So, would it be unwise to consider Alberta for initial settlement by new immigrants? What is your opinion? Economy seems to be doing bad in this province with job cuts and rising unemployment in Edmonton and Calgary. Okay, I'm just gonna switch this off because this is sort of reflecting. Okay, this looks better. Okay, so what do I think about the Alberta economy? Well, to be very honest, yeah, it's been a bit slow overall, and there are a lot of struggles for people across, not only in Alberta, in certain other areas as well. But that is also the condition in lots of other places in the world. Finding a job is, as it is, a bit difficult, as you're all aware, and it can be a bit of a challenge. So Alberta at times can pose, a bit of difficulty in that. However, having said that, don't completely rule it out just by what you hear on the media. Sometimes it's not that true. Yes, some people may have different opinion. I know of a few people who have arrived in Alberta, and they were absolutely fine. They were able to sort of, whether in Calgary or in Edmonton. Edmonton is a smaller town, obviously, and they were absolutely able to find employment. They were able to find jobs within the same period of time that you would find elsewhere. So I wouldn't really, rule it out completely. Yes, the economy is struggling across, and things are a bit, slow otherwise. Yeah, but so that's basically your call to make. Do your research, figure out what you intend to do, figure out your sector, your industry type, and then accordingly you can, look for opportunities there. Sabina, after our PR, is it possible to get PR for our parents? What kind of documents they would need? Because my parents don't even have their birth or marriage certificate, and what if they are uneducated? Can they still apply? Well, Sabina, you need to check the PGP, which is Parent Grandparent Sponsorship Program, which is available on the CIC website under the family class. You are able to sponsor your parents if you fall under a certain income bracket. So basically, you need to have your income that you're making, or that you're drawing. The family income has to sort of meet certain LICO targets. LICO stands for low income cutoff for your family size. So for example, your husband and your child, so three of you, and now you're going to call your parents, that's your mother and father, so that'll become five. So you will have to meet the family LICO for parents grandparents program for a family size of five. So just go back to the CIC website, look for parents grandparents sponsorship program. The only thing is that you will need to have this income for 3 years before you can apply. So so yes, you can sponsor them as per the program is concerned. But there are certain restrictions and conditions, so it's best to basically go back to the CIC website to check what the program is all about. But yes, there is a program to sponsor your parents. I'm not going to say it's easy, because it has been a lottery system all this time for the last couple of years. For this year, we are still awaiting what it's going to look like. But yes, there is a program available for you to sponsor your parents, if that's what the question is. Okay, Indrajit Kaur says, Please suggest courses related to commerce for study visa which will help to get PR after study. Okay, Indrajit, so basically the courses, I mean, the subject of your course is not really the deciding factor for you to be eligible for your permanent residency. Okay, the deciding factor is that the institution or the college should be registered, or rather should be a designated learning institute. So that's the first criteria for you to get any benefit of your education in Canada. And therefore, you should first look at that. And second is check the province, check in which province you are planning to study and see if that province has any criteria or requirements for the program subjects that you wish to study over there. For example, if you are to do a master's degree in Alberta, so then there is a separate program that they have for provincial nomination. It's called the Skilled Immigration for the international masters graduate, or post-secondary graduates, if you want to call it. And they then have certain subjects or certain fields or certain fields of education in which you should have completed your master's or PhD program in order for you to be eligible. Okay, so similarly, the best way to do it is to first go and check the respective PNP or a province that you're looking to apply under, and see which program you will be qualifying, and accordingly then choose. But then as far as commerce is concerned, it's a pretty vast subject. There'll be plenty and plenty of courses that you could take up for your study. Okay, that takes care of that. Okay, the next one was from Mehnaz. She says, my aunt, my mother's first cousin, lives in Saskatchewan for 5 years and is also a PR holder. Can I claim relative points for my aunt? Well, in Saskatchewan, technically you can claim points for close relatives, and your aunt basically will fall under the close relative category. However, you have mentioned that she is your mother's first cousin. Now, the first cousin under this category doesn't become your aunt, specifically for this category. So it will be your mother's siblings, your father's siblings, who will then become your aunt or uncle for the closed relative category for Saskatchewan. So that's what you would need. So unfortunately, your mother's first cousin would not qualify as aunt and would not give you those same points. Okay. But as aunt, yes, that category of relatives are acceptable for close relative points in Saskatchewan. Sarah Abida Hussain says, is there any age limit or number of years of gap after graduation to pursue a post-graduation course? Well, most colleges or most universities in Canada may have a requirement or a restriction on the gap years. And I think it's about 5 years for some of the colleges. But as far as CIC is concerned, no, there is no restriction or requirement of age, or there is no restriction of age. There is no restriction if you have a longer period of gap. I know of several people who have managed to successfully get a study permit approved even after 15, 20, 25 years of gap in their education. So as long as you're able to prove to the Canadian immigration authorities that you are a bona fide student, you are a genuine student, and your intention is to follow the Canadian immigration laws and pursue your education, you have a good reason to pursue that education in Canada, then you should probably be able to have a successful outcome. Okay. Pankaj says, we are a family of 3. We got a PR, did a soft landing, came back after 1 month. Circumstances don't allow my wife and kid to fulfill the requirements for PR renewal. If I fulfill the requirement at a later stage, can I sponsor them for their permanent residency or not? If yes, will they present PR status? To answer that question, Pankaj, first of all, the 5-year period is not for your status of permanent residency. It is for your PR card renewal. Okay, so once you become a permanent resident of Canada, you do not lose that status after 5 years, after 10 years. You continue to be a permanent resident of Canada unless it has been revoked by the Canadian authorities, or if you have renounced it. Okay, so the requirement is for the PR card. Now, obviously it is attached somewhere. So how it works is that in order for you to renew your PR card, because that is the only way you will be able to come back to Canada if you have not complied with your residency obligation, you will need to basically live in Canada or reside in Canada for 2 years in 5 years. That will allow you to be in compliance. Now, for example, if you are in compliance but your wife and your children are not in compliance, then once you're sure they are not in compliance and that you will not be able to do anything, then they must renounce their status first. So because if you will apply for their permanent residencies, your application is going to come back because they are still currently the permanent residents unless they've renounced or it has been revoked. So first you will need to renounce, or they will need to renounce their permanent resident status. And after that, yes, of course, you can apply for their permanent residency under the family class, and you being the principal sponsor, absolutely you can do that. Okay, and another question is, one more thing, till which month, year can I enter Canada safely without getting any questions asked? Well, you can get question asked at any point of time, even even if you have 4 more years of your residency, of your permanent residency, PR card validity left. So, asking of questions is nothing. At every point of time, the CDSA or the CIC officers at the port of entry want to check if you are really serious about wanting to reside in Canada. So they will always be asking you questions if they feel you are not really, living in Canada. So they just want to know exactly what you're up to and what you're trying to do. So the questions can be asked at any point of time. It's absolutely fine. As far as the problems arising is concerned, well, again, anytime where you haven't resided for 2 years and there is no chance that you will be able to comply with this residency obligation. So for example, if you haven't resided for the first 3 years, now you have only 2 years left. So you can still enter Canada. It shouldn't be any problem at all. But if you only have 1 year left and you still have 2 years, you require 2 years to maintain your residency obligation. From there on, now you are in the as I called questionable zone. You could be pulled up. You could be asked what's happening. They could even write you up, and they could actually refer you back to Immigration Refugee Board for you to figure out how you're going to comply with your residency obligation. All these things can happen, and from there on, then since you will not be able to comply with your residency obligation, once you are referred to the IRB, which is Immigration Refugee Board, there you would be an officer can take a decision for revoking your permanent residency, since you are not going to be able to maintain your status. So all those things come into play. But I know of people who have entered Canada even in the last month of their 5-year period, and they were able to come in absolutely without any issues. So it's also a matter of luck as to which officer you come across when you arrive, and if they are going to write you up or if they have an issue with what you're trying to do. But play it safe, be on the right side of things. If they are giving you a big 5-year period for you to come to Canada and establish your residence, ideally you should be able to do it. But the rules keep changing all the time, so you do not know what tomorrow holds for us. Okay. Oh, okay. Radhika says a PR holder can sponsor dependent visas for her family once they get the PR card, or is there any waiting time for sponsorship? First of all, I do not know which sponsorship we are talking about. If you're talking about family class for your spouse and for your children, well, PR card by itself is not a requirement. Yes, it proves your status. So if you have it, it's pretty good. And getting a PR card nowadays is hardly a matter of time. I mean, the process times, the current process times say that you will get your PR card within 2 weeks. So say 2 to 4 weeks max that you should get your PR card. And from there on, you're absolutely okay to apply for your dependent sponsors, your spouse and your children, and that's just about it. Yes, the process time can take anywhere from 9 to 12 months. The average processing time is 12 months, and the eligibility criteria is something that you need to check again based on your application, your status. Again, CIC website, excellent source for all information, of course, rather the best source for all the information. Check your criteria on the CIC website. There is no specific criteria as such. If you're a permanent resident and if you're not, if you are not on any provincial social benefits, if you are not drawing not subsidies actually, there are certain benefits. If you're drawing them, then you will not be able to apply. You will need to sign an agreement with the federal government that you will be responsible for the well-being and for your family, and you should not have any criminal record. Apart from that, there is not much criteria there as such. There is no income criteria, so you don't need to have an income or a job before you can apply for your spouse and for your child. And but you do need to provide them a plan as to how are you looking to support your family, because you are the sponsor and you are going to sign a performance, you are going to sign an agreement with the government to state that you will be taking care of them. So you will need to provide them with a plan as to how you intend to take care of them, even if you don't have a job. So there is no income requirement, there is no job requirement, but you do need to give them a plan as to how you intend to take care of your family. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, catching my breath. The age is catching up probably. Nazmus Sayadat says, please shed some light on the issue of having relatives in BC. Well, if the relatives are nice, then there is no issue with having relatives anywhere, is it? Now, is it somehow possible for them to allocate few points in Saskatchewan? No, you cannot get points for relatives in a different province. Think about it. Be logical. You shouldn't be even asking this question. First of all, it's very clearly mentioned in the Saskatchewan website that the relatives should be residing in Saskatchewan. Okay. It's very clearly mentioned, first of all. Secondly, why would a province give you points for relatives who are residing in a different province? It just doesn't make sense. The whole idea of giving you those points is that it encourages you to settle in the province, because you have relatives, because you have family, so you'll feel more comfortable, you'll feel less homesick. Therefore, you have relatives and they give you additional points for it because they want you to stay in the province. If you have relatives in a different province, actually it works against you in the whole because it sort of is now an encouraging factor for you to leave that province who is nominating you to go to a different province. So logically it doesn't make sense. No. So having relatives in a different province will never give you points for a particular PNP. Okay, another question is that if I go to BC and enroll myself in a diploma course and meanwhile work, then may I claim a Canadian degree? So, well, what he's asking is that he already has a Canadian. Okay, so he already has a doctorate equivalency. He has a PhD in his ECA, and he's asking if he can get points if he studies a Canadian diploma. Well, first of all, you're going to have an issue in your study permit, because if you've already done doctorate, if you've already have a PhD, the Canadian immigration is going to wonder, why do you want to do a diploma now? Okay, so you're going to have a difficult time trying to make this story complete as to the reason of your wanting to study a 1-year course, since you already have a PhD. So you will have to give a very good very good reason as to why you wish to do this program and why in Canada. So that's your first hurdle. As far as getting points are concerned, now points for Canadian education are allotted under section D. So if you go to CIC website and look for CRS grid point, so there's a section A, section B, section C. So the additional points or additional factor points are given to you under section D, and education points for Canadian education are given under that. So you will definitely get additional 15 points for 1 year of diploma, even if you have a PhD. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Fozia says, does getting medical pass and bill means RTN complete successfully? May I please request you to explain post AOR stages, what exactly happens with an application after submission? Okay, after submission, the application goes for assessment. That's what it happens. Okay, a medical pass and a biometric request letter, basically, once you get your biometrics done, does it mean if RTN is completed successfully? Well, first of all, your CIC account or there is no milestone indicator anywhere for you to sort of understand this is what has happened. But based on the numerous GCMS notes that we see, based on numerous applications that we see on a day-to-day basis, it's an assumption, and we understand that basically if you have completed your medicals, or if your medicals are passed and you have a biometrics request letter, then your RTN is successfully completed. There have been cases, of course, that people have got rejections under RTN even after they have medical, if they have passed their medicals and biometrics. So though there is no specific indicator or milestone indicator which states that if you have completed your medicals, or if your medicals are passed, then your RTN is complete. However, it's a general assumption, and I would go with that by and large. Post AOR, what happens is that you first of all pass your R10, which is your completeness check, that your documents are all completed under R10. R10 is R10 basically is regulation, is a section 10 under RPR, Immigration Refugee Protection Regulation. That's why R. Okay, and if you ever see S, then that's a section from the Act. Okay, or A is the section from the Act. So you get your R10 checked, and that's the first step in your assessment, that your application is complete for review by the program assistant or analyst. From there on, the program assistant will take over, and somewhere in the month of June of 2017, when there were a lot of changes which happened, before that, CIC would go in a step-by-step process of assessing your application. But in June in 2017, they did some back-end changes whereby your application was then sent for different assessments at the same point of time. So at any point of time, you could, again, it varies from point to point, but also at this point of time, your application could be assigned to a visa office. In a lot of cases, it could also be the same office as a CIO, which is Centralized Intake Office, which is Nova Scotia in Sydney. Sydney in Nova Scotia. And if they themselves could be your case processing office as well, or your visa office as well. But in most cases, you will be assigned a visa office. It usually is as per the geographical location of where you reside and where you work. However, certain countries are given a different visa office based on whichever is the main visa office that covers the entire geography. For example, for Pakistan, it is London in most cases. For Bangladesh, it is Singapore. And obviously New Delhi for India, the very popular and very famous New Delhi visa office. New Delhi visa office also will take care of Nepal, will also take care of Afghanistan, will in some cases take care of some other countries in the surrounding area. And that's by and large the assignment. A program assistant will then start reviewing your application under section A11.2, and they will start manually calculating your points to check if you are, first thing, that you're eligible for the program. Okay, so your MEC, which is minimum eligibility criteria, the 67-point calculator will apply first. They need to first check whether you're eligible for the program, that you have your continuous 12 months work experience, and your primary code basically is eligible for your work experience, etc., etc. And at this point of time, this person needs to sort of check if everything is fine. Your criminality would have already been checked by this time. And if everything is fine, this will go back. They will assess your application as eligibility recommended pass, or eligibility recommended met, or eligibility seems to have been met. And therefore, then the visa officer will take a call and says, okay, eligibility met. And A11.2 is then assessed for. And if that has been met, then it sort of goes to the security check. And if all of these areas are all clear, there is no review required, then application basically goes for security. And once the security is done, you will then get a PPR, which is in the golden mail. But a lot of people call CIC and they are told their CIC, their eligibility is met, their assessment is complete, their criminality is met, and they even are told that their security has been completed, and they're just waiting. And then they obviously get very anxious. But PPR mails are released in batches by the visa offices. Okay, so that's the reason you see the PPR rain that we talk about so many times. So many people getting PPR messages within the same 1 or 2 days span versus getting on a regular basis. So even if you have everything approved, you might still have to wait for the next batch release of PPR, and that's when you will get your passport request. So that by and large is how it happens and what happens post AOR. Okay, sorry. Okay, we haven't really got very far, have we? It's already half an hour gone. And Neha says, I'm expecting OINP nomination within a few days. Okay. Meanwhile, my spouse's IELTS is expiring on the 20th of Jan. Does he need to give the exam again and update his score, or can I just remove his IELTS detail and proceed with nomination and ITA? Well, Neha, the first thing that you need to check is what is your eligibility score without the spouse's IELTS? That's the most important factor, right? Because by your spouse having taken IELTS, you get 5 eligibility points. Now those five eligibility points could be very, very important. So first thing you need to check is if you are still eligible without your spouse's IELTS. If you are, then you could consider not taking IELTS if you wish to. But that is the most important factor. Check if you're eligible. If you continue to be eligible, then you can choose whether you want to still have your spouse take IELTS or not. Okay, but do explain in your letter of explanation when filing your permanent residency application. Ripon says, any chances for Nova Scotia Category B in near future? Well, Ripon, quite some time back, I had already mentioned that Category B looks unlikely from Nova Scotia. We have already stated that Category B might not open at all, in the sense like they are moving away from Category B. Nova Scotia hasn't announced it. They haven't mentioned it formally. So there is always that speculation that they might still open, and we're always hoping and praying that they do open Category B, could be because it sort of opens doors for a lot of people. But by and large, Nova Scotia has moved away from Category B kind of a process, and instead they have started identifying specific NOCs that they're interested in, and they have been sending notifications of interest only for those NOCs. So unfortunately, this whole year of 2019 has passed without any news from Category B from Nova Scotia opening. And from what little bit I know and I understand, it is unlikely that Nova Scotia will go back to that thing. Though I would still feel that there might be that last hurrah, that they might still open it once, maybe anytime next year early, but it's very unlikely that they would go that way. Fingers are crossed, hopefully they will do it. Rahul says, is it possible to work remotely for a company in a different province in USA? If you're a PNP nominee and residing in PNP nominated province, will it create any issues down the line? Example, citizenship. Enlighten your thoughts. First of all, I don't understand your question, Rahul. How are you residing in the province and working remotely from a different province or in USA? I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're residing elsewhere, how are you saying that you're residing in that province? So if you're asking me that if you are, okay, let me understand this question again. So if you are living and physically residing in a province that nominated you, but working for a company in a different province remotely, or working for a company in the US remotely, I think that's what you're trying to ask. Yes, it's absolutely fine. There is nothing wrong with it. What is required is that you have established your residence in the province. That is more of a requirement, and it has absolutely no issues with citizenship or whatsoever. Because you are complying with the requirement. Rather, it's not a requirement, but you're complying with your intent to wanting to rather establish your residence in that province, which you are, because you are physically residing. So yeah, absolutely no issues there. Snehil says, whether an inland PR applicant can travel outside Canada and come back if she has a valid work permit. Yes, absolutely. Just because you have a PR application going on doesn't restrict you from doing anything whatsoever. You are free to travel if you have valid documents to come back to Canada. Absolutely, you can travel in and out of Canada as much as you wish to. No problem in any which ways. Does it make any difference if he's single or married? Absolutely not. Why will it make a difference if you're a single or married? No, absolutely no issues. As long as you have valid documents, visas, permits to enter Canada, you're absolutely fine. Vijay says, can an individual apply for PR just for self and kid alone, although already in Canada with family on a work permit? Will that impact the open work permit that spouse currently has? I'm very sorry, Vijay, but I'm not able to understand your question. What do you mean, can an individual apply for PR just for self and kid? Okay, so you are asking me, okay, I get it. All right. Sometimes, sorry, it must be my poor understanding. All right, my reading skills need to sort of go back into it. So what you're trying to ask me is that if you can apply for spouse unaccompanying while the spouse is in Canada on an open work permit. Isn't that right? Yeah, I think that's what you're trying to ask. Yes, absolutely. You can apply even as spouse unaccompanying on your PR application, though your spouse is in Canada on an open work permit. There is nothing wrong with it. Technically, there is no harm in applying as such. You just need to give a good reason, and what is going to be the reason is something which you have to think of, and there has to be a convincing reason. I mean, your spouse is in Canada, but technically you can apply. I know of some people who have very successfully been able to apply as spouse and accompanying, with their spouse currently being in Canada. After they received their PR, they were able to sponsor their spouses and were absolutely successful. There is nothing wrong. Technically, there is nothing wrong with this process. Sharat says, having 1 year Canadian work experience from 18 to 19, did postgraduate diploma through distance education, did masters in India. Where is the question? Can he claim points for CEC? If your 1 year work experience is within the last 3 years, you can claim points for CEC. Can you claim points for PG diploma? If you have a PG diploma in India through distance education. Yes, of course. I mean, if you have a valid ECA for your PG diploma, yes, you can. For master's degree, again, if you already have a master's degree and you're getting a valid ECA for it, then why would you think about PG? Yes, of course, if you have a master's degree valid ECA, you can get your points for that as well. Nebu Siraj Kadir says, getting a higher score be good enough reason for spouse unaccompanying application? I'm an inland and I have only this reason to apply alone. Well, honestly, I don't know, because I'm not the one who's going to be assessing your application. There have been some people who have reported that this is the reason that they gave, and you know, they were able to go through quite simply. I mean, by just stating this reason, you know, there's a lot of discretion. Okay, by and large, a permanent residency application is very objective. Okay, they strictly go as per the law. So a section R10 says this, so this is what you need to have. Section R75 says this, you need to have. Section A11.2 says this is what you should have in your application, and that's how they assess it. But when you come into these areas of giving reasons or not giving reasons, then there is a discretion. That's where the subjectivity comes into play. That's where the discretion comes into play. That's where the visa officer now is in a position to understand what exactly is going on. If you get a good visa officer, well, he or she will just let it pass and will be laughing as to you having made a genuine attempt of stating something, honestly. And if you get a bad one, then there would be much more inquiry into this, and they will be asking you many more questions about this. And at some point of time, with the understanding that you don't intend to reside in Canada at all, because if your spouse is not going to be accompanying, and if your spouse being part of your inland application, what will be the spouse's status? Because you will lose, I mean, if your spouse is in an open work permit based on your status in Canada, once you become a permanent resident, then your spouse, after a period of time, after their expiry of the work permit that they have or the status that they have, they will lose status, right? So now you will need to apply first for their, you need to get them status, and then you will need to apply for their permanent residency. A lot of things come into play. Technically, I mean, it's a reason, and that is the reason you wish to give, then that's what you need to give. I don't see any problem with it. How CIC will review it and see it is something that nobody can comment on. I wouldn't suggest going with this, but it's absolutely your call, absolutely your choice as to what you think is a valid reason for you to not have your spouse accompanying you in your application. Okay, Nuruddin says, I have a question regarding proof of funds. I have received ITA on the 27th of November, okay, and will be getting a gift from my entire settlement fund. For my entire settlement fund, I will also be investing the funds in a fixed deposit. Is it okay? Yes, absolutely. You can get funds from your parents, get a gift deed, and absolutely invest your funds. No problem. I mean, invest your funds in a fixed deposit. I mean, not in any other investment as such. So what would you need? You would need a letter from the bank, you would need a gift deed, you would need a FD receipt. Obviously, you will need a transaction copy for the funds coming from your mother's account to your account, and your 6 months bank statement, if your bank is not going to mention the 6 months average balance in your letter. So that's basically what you will need. Anshul says, please acknowledge one of the famous questions. Okay, I'll have to see what the famous question is. What all letters are required as work experience? Okay, you really need me to answer that question. Okay, how embassy cross verifies work experience for PR? Reference letter is required with stamp on letterhead. Is ITR being cross-checked for previous company? I have not filed ITR for back years as my salary was low. Please explain all major questions related to work experience. It will be very beneficial. Anshul, first of all, for all your questions, you should actually watch my other videos, okay? Because we have been speaking about work experience like, I don't know for how long, and we made so many videos and we've discussed this so many times. It's like almost been beaten to death, but here goes one more time. I will not go into too much of detail. Please go and watch the videos or please read the blog posts because a lot of people already are aware of this. What all letters are required? First of all, you only need your reference letter. As far as CIC mandate, you only need your reference letter, which contains all the details, the information available on CIC website. No, but that is the minimum requirement. Whatever is mentioned on the CIC website is the minimum requirement of documents that you need to provide. Under ideal circumstances, it should work, but then the circumstances are never ideal. So you should always provide more than the minimum requirement. So provide your offer letter, provide your relieving or termination letter, or not termination, I'm sorry. Provide your relieving or resignation letter, provide your performance review letters, provide a copy of your company identification card, provide your pay stubs, your salary slips, provide the bank statements that show your salary transfer or salary credit. IT returns, if you have them, provide them. If you don't have them, provide, just mention that your salary was below the income level and therefore you did not file your IT returns. Your letters from the company do not need a stamp or a seal, but yes, they need to be on a letterhead, otherwise they are not official, correct? How does embassy cross-verify experience for PR? Well, the first thing that they do is they do a search through open data. They have recently also started using, at least that's what I've heard from some very, very resourceful people, that they've also started using artificial intelligence. They are also doing a keyword search on your documents to see what is the degree of match with the respective NOC. So there's a lot of technology which is coming into play in the assessment cycle. Though the actual assessment is still manual, it is still requires a visa officer to sort of go through the documents, but there is a degree of artificial intelligence and technology which is coming into the assessment already. And at times I'm told the delay is because of the fact that the things are breaking down, and because it's still in the beta stage and still in the testing stages. But yes, probably in coming times, because of all the technology being used, we might be able to see faster processing times. But for the time being, okay, so they will do your reference letter check. Then they will do an online, again, artificial intelligence, again, will do an online search, or they will do a manual search. Open data is what they call it, through the web. They will check for your company details. They will check. They will do a search on you, your social media profiles, LinkedIn, any networking peer platforms that you might have your profiles on, and they will try to match it with what you are saying. And a lot of people get caught there. But if they're satisfied with what they've seen so far, that will be the end. They will say, okay, it seems to match, it seems to verify, and that's just about it. If they're not happy, then they go to the next stage of calling or emailing the people in your company. And the emails or the calls may not necessarily go to the person who has signed the document. It will first probably go to the generic number in your company, if it's a switchboard operator or receptionist or the HR department, and they will check on what you basically do. They're not trying to check the content or the content of your reference letter. They're by and large trying to check if you actually work there, what do you do by and large, what is your generic duties, how long you've been working for, etc., etc. If they're still not convinced with all this, then the two drastic or extreme steps happen. One, they can call you for an interview and give you a chance to provide documents and explain or prove whatever their concerns are or allay their concerns. And they could also do a site visit. So they would have a third-party agreements with certain organizations, or maybe somebody from CIC itself, or will do a site visit, a physical official site visit to your office, and just to verify if you actually work over there. So this is basically how employment will be cross-checked, will be referred, will be verified. Does it answer your question? I'm sure it does. Okay. Wow. Okay. Sorry, just let me grab some more water. See, this is the benefit of posting your questions in advance. So basically I can go through them, and then at some point of time I will come to the questions on the YouTube, and we'll just see how much time we've got left. Right. So Mokamal Haq says, I have some questions for you. Hope these will be answered in the live Q&A. Okay. I have worked 3 positions, same knock, same company, and the job responsibilities are almost same. In that case, can I list down job responsibilities on the left on the reference letter and indicate it is applicable for all 3 positions? Yes, you can. And since all 3 positions are same, is it okay to enter all 3 positions in single entry in EE profile? If I don't, I will be asked to share 3 reference letters in EAPR. Well, ideally, I would suggest that if you have 3 different positions, even if it is 3 different NOCs, then mention 3 different positions in your EE profile. For all the 3, you can upload the same reference letter. It's not a problem. Okay. And your third question is, my MBA is 1-year program, but due to session, jam, and semester breaks, it took 2 years. On the ECA report, the program is not mentioned, but on academic transcript, it is written MBA degree 2012, examination held 2030. In that case, should I mention 1 or 2 years in your profile? Well, mention the number of years it took you to complete your education. Okay? You don't need to explain this in LOE, and that's your questions answered. Abdullah says, can anyone help in differentiating express entry where CRS points work and 67 points grid system? How to apply on latter system, and why do people prefer to apply through it? Okay, back to the basics, are we? Okay, Abdullah, 67 points grid system is the minute. Actually, it is not the 67 points grid. It is a 100-point grid. 67 points is your pass mark, or is your criteria to be eligible. So this 100-point grid, where you need to score at least 67, is your eligibility factor. In order for you to be eligible under Federal Skilled Worker Program or Federal Skilled Trade Worker Program, the 2 programs, not the CEC. CEC doesn't have the 67-point requirement. Okay. So for these 2 programs, under Express Entry, if you wish to apply in Express Entry under Federal Skilled Worker Program or Federal Skilled Trade Program, then is it applying for trade program as well? Only. So let's talk about Federal Skilled Worker Program. Then you must be eligible with 67 points. That is your requirement. Okay. So you must have 67 points in order to be eligible. Once you are eligible, okay, then you need a ranking in the pool, because let's say there are 10,000 people who are eligible and everybody is in the ranking pool. Now, how does the pool differentiate one from the other from those 10,000 people? So what will happen is that you will now have a ranking score. Again, based on your profile, age, education, work experience, and language scores, you will now have a ranking score. And that ranking score will then decide who will get an ITA, because they will always pick the top 3,000, 3,200, 400, 600, 800 profiles to get the ITAs. So this is how it works. I hope that explains. Okay, Meher Muhammad Mutahir Ramzan. I have a family friend in Saskatoon. Can I mention them? Having a family friend in Saskatoon, can you mention them? No, don't mention them, because I mean, where are you going to mention it? An Express Entry profile, there is no requirement for you to mention your friends, and it doesn't really give you any benefit. So no, it makes no difference whatsoever. Proof of funds: a person having 2 bank accounts, Bank A, enough settlement funds available, 12,000. 12,000, by the way, are not enough settlement funds. I do not know why. Okay. Bank B having home loan, which is more than settlement funds. Is it enough that we show proof of fund letters from Bank A alone? If suppose letters are shown from both banks, will IRCC question us, reject application because home loan is greater than the settlement funds? Sharath, first of all, it is not optional for you to not declare your home loan. You have to declare your home loan. Okay, so it's not optional. It's not like something which you can get away with, or you should get away with, because it's a requirement. In the proof of fund requirement, you must mention your liabilities. So if you have a home loan, then please mention it, because it's a loan against asset. Okay, so it's not a problem. You can always mention that you intend to dispose your asset before moving to Canada, and therefore it doesn't affect your proof of funds. So there is no direct rejection or refusal of application or CIC asking you what are you going to do with your home loan. So don't worry about it, but do mention, because that is always better. Okay. Lakmina says, my question is, I have lost my previous passport which had travels to Singapore. I can get new passport. Still, I need to get PCC, or can I ignore it? No, please don't ignore it. Okay. PCCs are one of the most critical factors. Just because it is not mentioned in your passport because you lost it doesn't mean you can now not get a PCC. Because if you ignore it, or if you don't mention your Singapore trips, then you are basically lying on your application, and that is misrepresentation. So please don't do that, because the consequences are just too drastic. Even if your old passport is lost, or if you're not going to, obviously you don't have to submit your old passport. So even if your current passports do not reflect your previous stays, that doesn't mean you will not mention it. So you must mention your previous travels to Singapore. And if you need a PCC from Singapore, then please, follow the requirement for Singapore PCC and do get it. But do not skip or ignore it, because that will be misrepresentation. Okay, Mukamil says, I have a PR sibling in Canada, but I don't want to claim points due to challenge in documentation. How to deal with this in EE and post-ITA stages? Well, in your Express Entry profile, it asks you specifically, do you have a sibling in Canada? So say no, okay? At your post-ITA stages, it will again ask you, do you have a sibling in Canada? Say no. But in your family information, okay, you will mention your sibling's name, and when it asks where does the sibling reside, you will mention the sibling resides in Canada. So that way you are not claiming points, but you are still clearly, declaring to CIC that your sibling does reside in Canada. Clear? Okay. Fatima says, I've applied in CEC and got my ITA. I'm on ICT and my company is asking me to move to USA as soon as possible. I have claimed job offer points. My question is, I have claimed offer me moving out of Canada but working for the same company. Will it jeopardize my application? Technically, no. Because the job offer from your company states that your job offer is valid for 1 year after you become a permanent resident. You have claimed for work experience points, which you have already completed. Okay, so your CEC points are locked because you already completed that work experience. Your work permit ICT is still there, and you are getting a job offer because it states that it will be valid for 1 year after you become PR. So it should not be a problem at all. Sujata says, hope you had a good holiday. Thank you. For Saskatchewan, having received the PR, but the mobility rights under the charter allow the residents to work anywhere in Canada. What happens if to the health card, which is the provincial responsibility, if I'm moving from Saskatchewan to Ontario? Should I apply at Ontario as well? Yes, of course, you will need to apply to Ontario health program, OHIP. But OHIP has a requirement that you should be residing in the province for 3 months before you can apply. So once you have resided in OHIP, once you've resided in Ontario for 3 months, at that point of time, you can then apply for your Ontario health card. They will, change it for you. Sabina says, I want to study in Canada after PR. Is IELTS a requirement? It depends from a college to college, from requirement to requirement. So the best thing is to figure out which college, which university, and see what their admission requirements are. Can a PNP nominee study in any other province? Well, any permanent resident in Canada under the mobility rights can live, work, study, do whatever they want to do in any part of Canada. Okay. Arya says, I hope we are all having a wonderful holiday season. Wow, that's a big question. Okay. Secondly, I would like to thank the moderators for adding me. Okay, we appreciate it. She is currently, Arya, I'm sorry, I'm just mixing up genders today. Looks like a male picture. Okay. Arya says, I'm currently pursuing my master's degree in Montreal. I came here in September. My sister and I both arrived together to pursue a master's degree on a student visa. Okay. Prior to landing in Canada, I completed my WES assessment and my IELTS exams in 2018. I completed them early so as to enter my profile. Okay. Since I currently reside in Quebec, which has a PR program of its own, will there be any issues if I apply to Express Entry program? Yes, there will be issues, of course. I have currently applied for my co-op work visa and I'm yet to receive any update. Will there be any risk also if I apply for my Express Entry? You cannot apply for Express Entry. I mean, you can apply for Express Entry, but you have a serious issue there. Okay. If you are currently living, working, studying in Quebec, technically you can apply for Express Entry, okay? But you now, because one of the basic fundamental requirements of applying an Express Entry is that you intend to reside anywhere in Canada but not Quebec, because Quebec has its own specific immigration program. Therefore, because you're working, living, studying in Montreal, in Quebec, you now have to provide sufficient evidence that establishes your intention to reside outside Quebec after you get your permanent residency. So you will need to provide those documents. If you do not do that, or if you're not able to satisfactorily convince the visa officer, then your application will be refused. Okay. Kashif says our PR application is due on 29 December and we are yet to receive any update. We submitted web form, got to know our visa office is Sydney. We are reviewing, etc., etc. We have not received any update. Is it possible to know what stage are we in? Okay. Is it slow in Sydney? Do we have any idea if the spouse also have points? Is it good idea if I get... okay, too many things as in can we. The first thing is there is no milestone indicator in your PR application. So basically you will not really figure out what exactly is happening unless you order GCMS notes. In GCMS notes, you will be able to identify if there are any blocks, any hurdles in your application based on the assessment from CIC officer. Okay. Apart from that, which visa office is slow, which is fast, all that are I would like to use a more harsh term, but I would not want to, because since we are doing this live, it doesn't really make sense, right? First of all, can you choose your visa office? No. So if whether you got a slow visa office or a fast visa office, first of all, that is subjective because different people have different experiences in the same visa office. So instead of bothering yourself with this is slow, that is fast, just relax, okay? Your application is in process. It will take its course, okay? It will do what it has to be, what it will do. You can't do anything. So getting all anxious, getting all stressed, getting all worried, it's not going to go and do anything for you. So just relax. Whether it's a fast visa office or a slow visa office, just relax, okay? Your application is due on 29th of December, which basically means it will be 6 months tomorrow. As per the current average timelines, the processing times are anywhere between 5 to 9 months. Okay, that is the average processing time for most of the applications. So what exactly are you freaking out about? Why do you want to withdraw your application and file another one and then wait for another 6 to 8 months? Honestly, I do not understand your anxiety. First of all, it's only been 6 months. Just relax. I know everybody's thinking because it is said 6 months and it says due date. The due date is a gimmick. It is just a timeline for 6 months. Okay, so just don't fall for it, first of all. Secondly, the process times just have been a bit longer for most of the applicants. CIC says that we will complete 80% of the application in 6 months, or average of 6 months. But you could be very well be between in the 20% bracket. So only suggestion I have for you is just relax. Okay, your 6 months will be over tomorrow. Maybe it's around the corner somewhere. So just relax, guys. And Neha, thank you for replying to my question. Okay, oh, we are still getting questions here. Okay, I'm going to stop these questions on this post. I was thinking, my God. All right, guys, this is cheating. Okay, this is not done. I thought we were still doing questions here. Let me just switch off comments here because everybody here on the YouTube has been waiting for questions as well. So we get to that first. Okay. Sorry about that. Something managed to fall. Let me just, I keep doing all these things. Okay, let's see the first questions. I need to take this out, pop it out, so I can keep a watch on these questions. Okay, I'm just going to scroll up to see. Okay, first, I've actually lost out on a lot of questions which were here, but I can't see them anymore. So we'll go with what I can see. Charanjit says, if someone receives PR under PNP or AIPP, can he move to another province after some time? Well, Charanjit, the first thing is that you have a moral and an ethical obligation to the province that has nominated you. Okay. The reason why provincial nominee programs exist is because these provinces basically need people to come and live in their province. So you need to respect that. Technically, and as per the law, once you are a permanent resident, you can live and work anywhere in Canada. It's not a problem. The the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom under Section 6, Mobility Rights, gives you that right to live and work anywhere in Canada, whether you are in PNP or AIPP program. So that answers your question. But technically, or not technically, but ethically and morally, you should give that province a chance at least, and try and see if you can establish your life there. Sakib says, my COPR stamp expires on Jan 3rd. I have not done initial landing. I got married in December 2019. Informed CIC, no response from CIC. Am I safe if I don't receive response from Jan 3rd? Yes, you're safe. But I would still suggest that I do not know when in December you have informed them, okay? But you should still message CPC Ottawa and your visa office and raise another web form at the earliest so that you can get some response from them, okay? Kushraj says, I have LLB degree. Can I pursue PG in paralegal from Humber? Well, Kushraj, I mean, it's not for me to say whether you can pursue or not. It has to be from the college, first of all, to accept your application, and then obviously for you to be able to prove to CIC why you need to do this in Canada, okay? But yeah, of course you can pursue any kind of program you wish in any college. Bhavesh says, will IELTS General be accepted from EE if reason for giving exam does not state immigration to Canada? Bhavesh, okay, you're one of those people who feel that by giving a different reason in your IELTS application, you will get a higher score. That if you will not mention immigration, but you'll mention personal reasons, for some reason the examiner will give you a higher score. Just think about it. Who needs to do IELTS General? Just think about it, okay? Why don't you go and Google and check who needs to do IELTS General by and large. So if you think the IELTS examiners don't already know the reason for you to be giving that exam, then you're mistaken. And giving a reason of personal or immigration doesn't really change, or your scores doesn't really make a difference in the examiner giving you points. But yeah, by all means, give whatever reason you want to give. You can by all means say you want to get married to someone and therefore you want to give your IELTS General and that is the reason. But yeah, give whatever reason you want to give. It doesn't make any difference. Kushraj says, will I get the visa? Kushraj, I do not know. That is for you to apply to CIC and then for CIC to approve your application based on the documents you submit for your study permit. Syed says, my profile is already in the pool with spouse and I'm living in Canada along with my spouse. If I change to non-accompanying, will it be a problem? I think I've already answered this question. Just please watch this video in the beginning and you will get the answer. Yakesh says, I'm a pharmacist and have business of medical stores since last 6 years. Should my NOC be pharmacist or retail manager? Is reference letter required? First of all, I do not know what your NOC can be. It is up to you. You have to choose your NOC based on your job roles and responsibilities. And if you have your own business, then you need to apply as self-employed and thereby if you are the owner of your pharmacy yourself, then obviously your reference letter will have to come from your clients and not from anybody else. So again, on the same channel, I have another video on self-employed work experience. Watch that video. It will give you details of what documentations you need to apply under self-employed, okay, for under Express Entry itself. So it's not a different category of program, but in Express Entry, if you're applying as self-employed, then you need a whole lot of set of documents which are different. But please follow that. You are not an employee and you have to apply as a self-employed. Manveet says, proof of fund pertaining question. Can I submit updated proof of funds if the set of documents submitted at the time of ITA were less than required? Well, why did you submit proof of funds which were less? I am not able to understand that, first of all. But if they were less, then already your application is in jeopardy, okay? Because it's a requirement that you have sufficient settlement funds at the time you submit your application. Having those funds later doesn't really satisfy that requirement. So your application is already in jeopardy. But by all means, yes, if you now have sufficient proof of funds, yeah, use the web form and update your proof of funds. But I would be quite jittery about this one. Karan says, have you applied to IRCC before? Can I change this question's answer after receiving my ITA? I have mistakenly answered this as yes because I had earlier expressed it. Yes, you can change it. Purnima says, I'm nursing instructors with 14 years experience. My NOC is 4021. My score is 344. My SINP is 66. Okay, what's the question? Honestly, I cannot assess your profile and tell you what applies for you, what doesn't apply for you. Please check individual PNP program websites. On those websites, you can check their criteria, the program requirements, and based on that, you can apply. For showing home loan in proof of funds, what are documents required? Well, nothing. Just say or just provide your current statement from the bank in which you have the home loan, which shows your outstanding, and just explain that this is the value of your house. This is the remaining outstanding balance that you need to pay. And that's it. There is no other specific documents required. Sankar says, is it possible to update the education and IELTS score in Saskatchewan OID? No, it is not. You will have to delete it and create a new expression of interest. Syed says, my profile is already in pool with spouse and I'm living in Canada. Okay, we went to the same question again. Vasant says, my Sierra score is 429 and my NOC code is 2173. Will I get PNP for Ontario? Vasant, I do not know. Please follow the trends for Ontario and see if your score is anywhere in the range that they have previously invited people. Ankit says, after proof of funds. Okay, good question, Ankit. Ankit says, after proof of funds are shown in an application, can we use these funds or we have to keep them in the bank account? Ankit, the proof of funds are meant for your settlement in Canada. So CIC requires you to have these funds available at the time of application, at the time they approve it. So you will need to maintain these funds. Please do not think of using these funds because if CIC asks you for updated bank statement at any point of your application, you will be in a bit of trouble. There have been previous cases where people have used the funds and CIC was able to verify and check that the person did not have enough funds in their account and they were not asked for any ADR. Their application was simply refused. Okay, so please be mindful of that. David says, what is your view on NOC 4212 in upcoming PNP draws? David, I do not have any view on any NOCs. To be very honest, I don't keep a database in my head in terms of different NOCs. Please check specific PNP programs, their websites, and see what the trends for your NOC is. Franklin says, I'm working as a finance manager and my wife is a software engineer. Whom should I keep as a main applicant if I wish to enter Ontario PNP? Franklin, it's up to you, okay? Whoever has a better score, whoever has a better chance, whosoever's NOC is in demand, make that person or that person becomes the primary applicant. Tahsin says, my job role matches with NOC 0124, while my bachelor's degree in engineering will create an issue for claiming the work experience points. Tahsin, in Express Entry, your employment requirements are not assessed or are irrelevant for assessment. So if your field of education is different from your work experience, then it doesn't really matter in Express Entry. For provincial nominee programs, please refer to their respective requirements of the NOC or the requirement of education being in the same field as your work experience. But for Express Entry, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, then we have Jeffy Joe says, I'm currently a student in Canada. Once I graduate and get a full-time job offer, do I have to show full proof of funds as settlement funds? Is there a program where I don't have to show full proof of funds? Okay. If you apply under Canadian Experience class, which basically means if you have completed 1 year of work experience in Canada under a valid NOC, which is 0A or B, and you were paid, then you can qualify under Canadian Experience class if you have completed 12 months. And that's just about it. You don't really need proof of funds then. So proof of funds is not required for CEC. And then Dua Fahmi says, my score is 319, my NOC is 3113, my husband is chemist. Can we get nomination from Alberta because my husband has 13 years experience in gas company? Dua, please check Alberta nomination program and see what the program criteria and details are and then apply accordingly. I really cannot tell you whether your profile is eligible or not. Mohammed says, I already have a valid entry visa, but I want my family to come with me to Canada. How can I do that? Mohammed, well, check what the requirements or eligibility criteria for your family to join with you is. You just say you have a valid entry visa. Is it a transit visa? Is it a visit visa? Is it a work visa? Is it a study visa? I don't know what it is. So based on whatever your visa is, you can then check what you can do for your family to come with you. Okay, please go back to CIC website and see how you can apply for your family as well. Okay. Okay, what is the next question now? Is mutual funds a safe option for proof of funds in Saskatchewan, or should I liquidate it into my bank account? Well, mutual funds can definitely be used in Saskatchewan. There is no problem with it. Okay, you don't need to liquidate them. You can use your mutual funds for proof of funds in Saskatchewan. Crystal says, is there a way to add a stepson as a relative and not claim him as a dependent? Well, Crystal, you can most certainly, you definitely should add your stepson in your application. You can mention your stepson in your family information form, and you can, state that this person is not accompanying in your application. Okay, but you can definitely do that. There's no problem with that. But mind you, you will need your stepson's PCC, sorry, not PCC, medicals. You will need your stepson's medicals. Rav says, is mutual funds a safe option? Okay, I just answered that one. Nitin says, okay, Nitin also answered. Okay, Ayan says, is there any chance for 468 in upcoming draws? Will there be any OMP tech draws in 2020? Ayan, both of them are speculative. I can't answer either of them because honestly, I don't know. I would love to see 468, 465, 466 and much lower scores coming in the upcoming draws, but we don't really know when and how that will happen. Is the screen moving back and forth, or is it just me thinking it's moving? Is it moving? I don't know. Something wrong with the camera's autofocus, I presume. But anyways, let's go on with it. Fahad says, is there any scope for mechanical engineers? Which province is the best to apply? Fahad, please check individual provincial websites and look for your program based on their criteria and program details. Ahmed says, I have a question concerning the translation of documents to English. Does the seal on the true copy document need to be dated before the affidavit date? I don't understand that. Okay, yeah, I mean, you don't know. The date of the true copy doesn't really make a difference. You can have it before and after. It's not a problem. Neha says, can we show PPF as proof of funds? Yes, Neha, you can show PPF as proof of funds as long as you can get a letter from the institution that is holding your provident funds to show that these are available to you without any restrictions. Okay, too many repeated questions. You're going to skip them. Moinuddin says, I have got New Brunswick invitation for nomination. Excellent. Also, my spouse wants to apply for study permit for September 20 session. Will there be a problem if my wife apply for study permit while my PNP application is under process? No, there will be no problem as long as you're able to explain to CIC about your dual intent. So it's not a problem at all. Okay, Sakip says, okay, we've done this already. Pradeep says, sir, we are in October AOR and my organization is initiating Quebec work permit. Will there be an impact? See, the fact that you are now initiating a Quebec work permit, it basically means you don't intend to reside outside Quebec, but you intend to work and live in Quebec. That will make a problem for you, of course, because then it is in direct contradiction with your express entry regulations. So yeah, it can be a problem. Okay, how is this possible? Looks like we already come to the, oh, okay, more questions here, sorry. Okay. Darshan says, I'm an electrician, have 14 years of experience, I have completed WES, I got 4.5. Can I be eligible in Canada? Darshan, yes, you could be eligible in Canada under certain programs. But again, I cannot tell you which program or which province because I don't remember all of them. So please visit individual provincial websites, check their program details, their criteria, and based on that, you could be eligible depending on what the requirements are. Okay, Jatinder says 2171 is not in the draw from long. My point 68 with knock 2171. Jatinder, I wish I could comment on that. I don't know why they do not draw certain NOCs or when they will draw certain NOCs. You'll have to just wait and watch. Islam says, is it better to provide Schedule A upfront since I have visa refusals or wait for an ADR? Islam, if you wish to provide it upfront, you can, but CIC can still ask for Schedule A again at any point of your application, sometimes twice, thrice during the process of application. So it's up to you. If you want to provide it upfront, do it. If you want to wait for the ADR, you can wait for the ADR. It doesn't really make a big difference in your process. Okay, Mohammed Faisal says, many agencies have told me they will arrange a job offer, but is it really possible by the agency to get a job offer for the applicant? Okay, first of all, immigration consultants, agents, etc., cannot get you a job, or rather cannot give you a job offer because that job is basically from the employer. A lot of them can mediate, but from what we know and what we understand, a lot of them are scamsters, they are frauds. So please be very, very careful in what you are giving them. They will give you a photoshopped and a fake reference letter, a fake employment letter, and they will give you a document which will look like a genuine job offer, but it is actually not. So please be very, very careful. I know of lots and lots and lots of people who have lost a lot of money with this. So if they're charging you for a job offer in such cases, please be very, very careful. And even if you do, buy one or pay for a job offer, because unfortunately it is the reality of the business, please be very careful. Please check back with the employer. Please make sure that you were interviewed and you have the details of the employer directly. If required, call the employer, contact the employer directly on their official numbers or email addresses to clarify and to verify if your job offer is genuine. You yourself have to watch out, for any scamsters and be sure that you do not get cheated. Okay. Shahbaz says, can my minor children fulfill their residency obligations without me? We received our PR cards. Yes, Shahbaz, once you are permanent residents, all of you are individual permanent residents and you all need to comply with them separately. So yes, they can absolutely fulfill the requirements without you. Sanjay says, we've already answered that. Okay. Tracy says, my spouse was a resident of Qatar for 3 years. He last stayed there for 6 months in a row in September 17th. He flew back for 1 month before leaving in Feb 18. His PCC is dated 3 days before leaving. Can I use it for EAPR? Well, Tracy, it's up to you if you want to use it. I would not suggest it because we know of so many cases where the applications were refused because the PCC did not cover the entire duration of their stay. So if you want to use it in own risk. Okay. Murari says, what is the reality of getting a job offer to proceed under RNIP? As Salt Marie has all the expired job listings on their website, which is very disappointing. Murari, the listings on the website from Sault Ste. Marie may have been expired, but then those are only very few job listings. There are many, many more available with the employers directly. So try and look for jobs directly with the employer and let them, help you get your endorsement from the community. And it is absolutely real. It is happening, in a lot of ways. It is happening for a lot of people. I know of some people who have managed to get their job offers from employers directly. Rudra says, I want to go to work in Canada without IELTS. So please give me an easy way. First of all, Rudra, there is no such thing as an easy way. It all depends on your own effort. Please look for an employer who's willing to hire you, who's willing to give you a job offer, and that's it. And then apply for a work permit based on the job offer and the LMIA you will get. Okay, Mohit says, when is the next expected date for Ontario Tech Draw? What could be the minimum CRS requirement? First of all, nobody knows when is going to be the next Tech Draw. Ontario did not, discuss or tell us what's happening with their Tech Draws or when they will do it. What could be the minimum CRS requirement? Again, we don't know. Okay, but historically, Ontario has always, issued their CRS range in tandem with the express entry draws. So their highest range point will be closer to the last CRS drawn score, and the lower range will be 20 to 25 points difference in the range. That's how they have done it in the past. It also depends on how many profiles are there in that range, and how many notifications do they want to issue, for that particular draw. So all that will collectively decide what will be the range of CRS that they choose to at that point of time give out notifications to. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I know something is happening with the screen and the focus is going in and out. The screen is sort of jumping in and out again and again. I'm not sure why that is happening. I apologize for that. Okay. Under federal skilled worker, overlapping work experience with part-time bachelor and master degree, is it approved? Yes, we know of several cases where people were working while they were studying, and it was definitely it has definitely been accepted. Okay, Weber says, oh, okay, where is Weber gone? If someone has done a soft landing, can they come back in the 5th year of PR period? Well, technically, yes, you can. Absolutely. As long as your PR card is valid, you can enter Canada. Now, once you do enter Canada, they will be questioning. The CDSO officer will question you. Will try to understand what exactly are you being up to. And they will be aware that you will not be able to comply with your residency obligation. At that point of time, they can choose to write you up and refer you to IRB, which is Immigration Refugee Board, for them to review what you have been up to. And it can be a tricky one, but yes, technically you can still arrive in Canada. Technically, you can still come back to Canada. Technically, you can still make an entry as long as your PR card is valid. Okay. Okay, now I still see some more repeated questions. I'm going to skip them. Okay, Petrosinov. I have been working for a company for 10 years. I would like to note that my education is in related field and is related to my job. Okay, where is the question, my friend? I don't see the question. Jay says 1 year experience as an Android developer. Tell me the PR options. Well, Jay, please check CIC website, check PNP PNP websites for program details and criteria. I keep saying this, guys. I keep repeating this. Check PNP websites. Check PNP. Honestly, if you're going to type your profile for me and expect me to give you an assessment of your profile and tell you which PNP options, it's not going to happen because I am not going to now, take your profile, go online, check on different websites and tell you, okay, if you're expecting me to do this, then you're being very lazy. Okay, so this is something which you need to do. You have decided to do your own application, and if you've decided to do your own application, then you need to do a research. You need to do a lot of research, not just figuring out where and how. If you start going by anybody who tells you go here, go there, then you will basically be roaming around like a headless chicken. So please understand the process, understand the program, do a detailed research on your profile, on your NOC, on the requirements, on the criteria, and then apply. My telling you something is not going to make any difference because I will also have to do the same research. And honestly, as of now, I'm not going to do that, right? So please go to individual PNP websites, check CIC website, check the criteria, check the details, check the requirements. And if you're eligible, by all means apply. Okay. That's it. I will not take any more tell my PR option questions. Okay, what else have we got? Again, repeated question. Charanjit says, my wife being the main applicant, can she show my PF account as proof of funds as FD, which I have jointly with my father? Joint accounts are not really recommended. It's sort of always creates an issue. Try and get them in your name if possible. If not, then you will need an affidavit from your father which states that he has no objection to you having the complete access to those funds. But accepting that affidavit then becomes discretionary. Okay. Okay. Kush Kapoor says, on my employment letter, I have a different role, but I got promoted and got a different salutation. My reference letter has updated salutation, okay, designation with roles. Is that fine? Yes, it's absolutely fine. What you can do is that your reference letter must mention, all the different roles that you have worked in that company for. And if that happens, then absolutely fine. You must list all your roles and responsibilities, and by all means, go ahead and do it. In the sense, you must also mention the different designations or different roles you have held with the company, and the same reference letter, if it talks about all the different roles, you can use it to upload in those jobs. Karan Verma says, my uncle is in Canada, but I don't have good relations with them. Should I still mention? No, you don't have to. Daljit says, you missed my question earlier, and Daljit had put it in all caps. Daljit, I'm sorry because I can't really see all questions. Unfortunately, a lot of them have been skipped, and a lot of them I continue to skip because there is so much of repeat that I keep missing some questions as well. So I'm sorry, Daljit. If you will post it again, I hopefully will be able to see it again and then answer to that question. Okay, where did it go now? Oops. Adi Bio says, how do I start the Express Entry application? You go to CIC website, which is cic.gc.ca. You will look for my application or how to sign in. Create your GC key account. Once you create GC key account, then it will tell you how to come, or rather, I want to come to Canada link option. Click on that, and then you can create your Express Entry profile. If you have done your ECA for your education and your IELTS or TEF or TCF for your French, and if you have your language scores based on these two, you can then create your Express Entry profile if you're eligible. Okay, but CIC website has all the details. It has much more comprehensive information on how you can come to Canada. So please do visit CIC website for more details. Jatinder says, I have heard in one of the WhatsApp groups that only 25% of the proof of the PF fund can be used as proof of funds. Is it so? Any way to authenticate it? Jatinder, on all these, you know how many million WhatsApp groups there are? So on all these WhatsApp groups, the so-called gurus of immigration who are heading it and giving you this information, you should always turn around and ask them, please tell me where is it written that I can only use 25% of my funds as proof of funds. Okay, so unless they give you an official and authentic link to an official website, please do not follow such kind of people, because they will only mislead you and misguide you. Okay, so as long as you can provide or you can always go back to the province. Okay, in Saskatchewan, you can write to them and ask them for details, but please do not follow these people who keep, because they're not going to lose anything. I mean, they will just answer one single comment and one single answer, and then they will walk away. And what are you going to do about it? So it is your application. You are the one who's suffering. You are the one who is going to reap the benefits. So please do your research more in detail. Please do not fall for anybody who says anything to you. Always ask for details of the official website, or always go back to the province authorities and ask them the direct question. But just don't fall for it that only 25% of such funds can be used. Okay. Sagar says, my knock code does not match with employment and designation. If I don't mention it, is it okay? Yes, it's absolutely fine. You don't have to mention it if you're not claiming points for it. After you get your ITA, please mention it in your personal history, because it's important that you do mention it. Okay. Manish says, I'm an editor. I have my knock code. Do I need a job offer from ITA from British Columbia? Yes, you do. If you have not been studying or working in British Columbia, then you definitely need a job offer. Again, please go back to the Provincial website, check their website, check their programs, check the criteria, check the eligibility requirement, and then you will know exactly what's going on. Okay. Sachin says, due to low CRS scores, is it advisable to increase points under CEC class and then apply for PR? Or is there any provision to apply for OMP after landing in Canada on LMIA work visa before 1 year? Well, again, Sachin, it's a very, very wide question that you're asking. Use whatever possible options are available to you to improve your CRS score. If by working for 1 year in Canada and increasing your Canadian work experience gives you additional points, by all means do. If you want to apply for OINP under their employee stream, then by all means, if you're eligible and your employer is eligible, then by all means do. Okay, but for each of this, you will need to go back to the provincial website, check the exact details of the program, see where you're eligible, see how much of a difference it makes in your application, and then follow accordingly. Okay, Monica says, is there an exception to sponsorship for family blood relatives? Read all rules which are for a relative in a specific situation. Well, Monica, again, a very vague and a very wide question. Again, please refer back to CIC website if you are looking to get information on sponsorship for family blood relatives. You can sponsor your siblings only in very, very specific conditions which have been very clearly mentioned. I don't remember it on top of my head. Even I would have to refer back to CIC website. But yes, you can sponsor your siblings under the certain age, but only if they are under a certain criteria, or if they qualify under a certain criteria. But there are very strict requirements for that. Apart from that, you cannot sponsor any other relatives. For your parents, grandparents, yes, there is a parent-grandparent sponsorship program. For that, you need to have minimum income. You need to meet minimum income requirement. You need to have filed your taxes. Your family income has to be more than the LICO. And you should have been filing for at least 3 years. And yes, you can sponsor your parents under that program. Okay. Ralph says, how is Saskatchewan province as compared to Ontario, economy-wise, settlement-wise? They're both different provinces. They both have, their own goods and bads. Ontario obviously is one of the most populated provinces in Canada. Saskatchewan not so much. So the opportunities are similar, or rather are going to be proportional. But I would suggest, just do a bit more research and check what works for you, because it could be that your particular job or your industry does better in Saskatchewan than Ontario. So based on what your research is, you can make that decision. Okay, guys, thank you so much. This screen which is going back and forth is something which is bothering me, in the sense like I can see that it is sort of irritating in a way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this transmission now. If I haven't been able to answer your questions, and I know there are a lot of questions which I haven't been able to answer, please come back onto our Facebook group and post your questions there. And either myself, one of our moderators who do a great job of answering so many questions all the time, or one of our members who are always there, who are always helping people, will be able to help you out. But I would, there are so many questions that I've seen today, and they seem more lazy than otherwise. As in, not the people, but the questions seem lazy. For example, if you're gonna just come and ask, what are my chances, then it basically means you're not doing your research. And if you have chosen to do your own application, then you do need to do your research, because along the way, several people are going to tell you different kind of things. Some will tell you you're not eligible, some will tell you you are eligible, somebody will tell you go into that program, someone will tell you go to a different program, and you will basically get confused. It won't work. Okay, the best thing for you to do is to check individual provincial websites, and I keep saying that, and I'm sorry I've repeated that so many times already, but only those websites can give you authentic information and detail. If you check those information and detail and follow it through, then you will have much more concrete way forward. It is becoming difficult, no doubt. Canada has become extremely difficult in terms of the whole scores going up. Everybody knows the CRS score is climbing like crazy. In the times to come, if you do not have Canadian work experience or Canadian education, it may feel that would be the only route to go. So unless you get those important points for Canadian education and Canadian work experience, your application might not even go through with Express Entry. So there is a specific mandate from the Prime Minister of Canada, which has come in relation to the immigration. And they have very clearly said that they intend to encourage more people settling down in smaller communities, in smaller municipals. So we are already seeing RNIP, which is Rural Northern Immigration Pilot Program. Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program will continue to grow because it has been quite successful. And we also look forward to seeing some municipal level immigration programs. But you see, all of these programs are always going to be related to the fact that you should be able to get a job offer. And the reason why they're all related to job offers is because it has been established that if you have a job offer and you have a job, you tend to reside in that province or community or a municipality. And the whole purpose of these programs is to encourage people to reside in different provinces away from the main population hubs of Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal. So the government wants people to spread out, move into different communities, and people are really needed. There is a big demand of workers, of people in different smaller communities. And a lot of time people are looking for jobs in the wrong places. I mean, I know a lot of people are always looking for jobs in Toronto, they're looking for jobs in Vancouver, and these people are already populated. These people already have so much of competition, because just like you, there are thousands more who are looking for the same job. But if you were to sort of expand your horizons and look for different provinces, look at different communities, look at different cities, then you might realize that there is a better option, better chance to get or to successfully secure a job offer. In 2020, I mean, as of right now, Express Entry is not looking very promising in terms of the scores, unless CIC does something magical and increases the number of ITAs, or if they do a more frequent draws. For example, the last draw was on the 19th, today is the 28th already. The next draw we are hoping is in the first week of Jan, which will be 2 weeks from the last draw. If at all the draw doesn't happen in the first week of Jan, and the following week, so basically that would mean a 3-week gap. And as we have seen historically already, that if the draws are after a longer period of time, the scores tend to go up. And once the scores have gone up, they have been very reluctant and stubborn in coming down. And that is primarily because of so many people in the pool. So the number of people in the pool will continue to sort of, make the scores stay right on top and make it more difficult. And that's how it is looking as of now. As per the last pool breakdown, the scores, the number of people with more than 451 was 16, 17, I don't remember the exact figure, 16, 17,000 people. And that's a lot of people in that bracket. And each day more people join in. Each day more people have graduated from a certain program in Canada, in college, or they have now achieved their 1-year work experience in Canada, or 2 years work experience, etc., etc. More people have come into Canada and have achieved their diplomas or programs. So all of these people will also enter the pool with higher scores, and the pressure on that segment with 451 upwards is going to continue to grow. So my suggestion is that a lot of people tend to overlook certain programs or certain options, because everybody talks about something. And for example, all this while everybody was thinking only about Nova Scotia Category B, Nova Scotia Category B. Their entire attention was in Nova Scotia, and we saw that Nova Scotia didn't really open at all, and we have been saying that since June, July this year, that Nova Scotia Category B may not even open, because it's unlikely they will go with that, because they have chosen to go with the specific NOCs and sending out notifications. I would really love to see them open Category B again, because it gives opportunities to a lot of people who are waiting out there. But if it happens or not, we don't know. I feel it's unlikely that it will happen, but I would still love to see it. And I would love to see them doing it again. Now, another thing which needs to be understood is that the quota is for roughly 330,000 people for 2020. Okay, these 330,000 people are economic. Not all of them are economic immigrants. So the categories have been then further bifurcated. Under the economic categories, which are your Express Entry, Federal Skilled Worker Program, PNPs, there are roughly 170,000 people. So almost half of the total immigration quota. So you can imagine, if these 170,000 people is the total quota, including the PNPs, and that is for the entire year. So you can imagine how much the competition is going to be. At any given point of time in the Express Entry pool, as of today, we are seeing roughly 125, 130,000 people. okay, give or take a few. And with so many people, you can imagine these numbers keep growing all the time. The competition is going to remain tough. So for people who are planning permanent residency, for people who have the options, you need to check different options. You need to check where all things can be easier for you. I absolutely understand that getting a job offer is difficult. Not only difficult, it's a Herculean task. Okay, but it is a requirement. It will remain a requirement. It will actually become a requirement in many more programs that keep coming. If you can get a visit visa to Canada, okay, please get one. If you have time available, if you can spare that time and money and effort, do come to Canada and look for jobs, because it's always easier being here and applying for a job and getting across a table and speaking to the employers. But if you do that, don't restrict yourself to Ontario and to British Columbia. Do venture out to other provinces, because that is where a lot of employers are very keen in welcoming people. And even if you're in Ontario or British Columbia, do not stick to Toronto or Vancouver. Move out north. Go anywhere north in Ontario, and the chances are you will find a job. You will find an employer who's willing to offer you a job and would love to actually have you there. But people are so restrictive in the way they apply. They're only looking for offers in certain provinces or in certain cities. That sort of it limits their possibilities for things to happen. So yeah, that's basically more or less from my side. Thank you for joining in. Okay. As you can see, this YouTube channel, I would love for you to subscribe it, because I have 2 more videos which are ready. Hopefully, once I finish the editing, I will upload them. And the first one basically is, a lot of you have been asking that question, is about PNPs. So in that video, I talk about how do you go about selecting a provincial, how do you go about selecting a province, how do you go about identifying which province will work for you, and how do you choose your profile, or how do you make your profile to suit that provincial program. So do tune in for that one. It will be a video which hopefully I will upload it within the next week. The second one I have is for people who have the money to invest in Canada, and who are basically looking to come into Canada as entrepreneurs, as business owners. Okay, if age is not on your side, if education or CLB 9s is not on your side, if you have done well in your life in terms of having set up business, if you do intend to come to Canada and start a business, then owner operator program might be the one for you, because under this program, you come to Canada as a business owner. So you have invested in Canada, you have purchased a business, you have started a business, you come to Canada as an owner and operator, okay? And you are able to then get an LMIA for NOC 00. That gives you 200 points. Now the 200 points can then be added to your Express Entry profile, and therefore gives you that very additional, push, so that you can then file your Express Entry permanent residency application. Now, it's a great program for people, obviously, who can invest money, who are looking to set up businesses. So that will be my second video, which is coming out in the next week. So all I can say is do subscribe to the channel, okay? Give us likes. I can see 47 likes out of 200 people who are watching today. I mean, come on, it takes a lot of effort to do this. So if I see the likes, I get motivated, and who doesn't like motivation and encouragement? So please do subscribe to the channel. Do give us your likes. Do share. And come back to our Facebook groups and post your questions there. 2019 is ending, so I wish you all the best for 2020. I wish you a very, very happy new year, a very prosperous new year, and I hope all your dreams come true. And until such time, bye.